You're here because you want to understand how I went from not having successful startups to suddenly having one with 10,000 users within a couple of months. Well, I'll be here too, and we're going to talk about exactly all the things that I did not do to ensure that I got to this particular point, and how you can do the same thing as well and prevent catastrophe. Okay, we're going to be talking about 5 very important things, and these things also, by the way, are recommended from YC, Y Combinator as well, that I coincidentally also did. So let's jump straight into it. The first thing I did not do this time around is build absolutely everything. Boiling the ocean. This happens with a lot of startups that are trying to go ahead and build a product, because they look at a new startup and they see a company that has existed for maybe 10-15 years and they have 100 features, and now they're entering that space as well, and it's only natural for you as a founder to want to go ahead and build everything that matches at least your competitors. Now that's exactly where you have to stop right now. Do not do that. Find a niche. So basically rip apart an existing product, find things that they're good at, ignore those, find things that they are bad at, and then find people who really care about the problem they're solving that they're really bad at. There you go, you found the match, right? Existing customers of an existing product who hate the solution for a certain part of that particular product. Take that piece that you found from your competitors, and then go ahead and build a specific solution to that particular problem. Now, you are not meant to go ahead and solve for the world's problems. Every time that does end up happening, if you're building a marketing solution, for example, do not go ahead and solve for everything that has marketing involved in it. Well, maybe down the road, eventually you will get there, but when you launch your first version, it should be specific to that main problem you're facing. Now, take SmartWriter, for example. When we launched that, initially, we were going to go ahead and solve email marketing as a problem. That was too big an ocean to boil. Instead, what we found that people did always, they could not avoid, and it was absolutely vital for them to do in order to increase the chances of revenue, return rates, reply rates, and so on and so forth, was personalization. So we specifically used personalization as our niche in the copywriting marketing space for us to go ahead and create a product. Now, by no means by going niche does that mean your product becomes easier or simple. In fact, our product is probably the most complex product I've built, and I've built a lot of startups for people, millions of users, right? Millions of revenue for other startups, and this one is probably one of the most complex ones that I've built. So ensure that when you're building a product, you find a very specific problem and you solve that extremely well. It's going to go against every bone in your body to not want to build other features, but that's the whole point. Number one thing that I would focus on to avoid when I want to go and grow my business is to ensure that I'm solving for a very specific problem that is a problem already faced by customers who are using other products. The second concept is what I call future fallacy. That means when I want to go ahead and build a business, or what you should be doing is, instead of doing what your competitors are doing right now, do what your competitors did when they started. If Facebook launched right now and they just hit the market with the billions of things that they've got from their marketplaces to the groups, to the pages, to their ads manager, no one would know half of what was happening. They gradually released new features over a span of 15 to 16 years. So Facebook now, if it launched, should not have launched with those, billions of features that they have. They would have still launched with those 1 or 2 things that they did, which is solve a problem of connecting 2 people, right? The same space, if we go with the NFT space right now, if you look at OpenSea for the first few years was just a simple website where you could just list an NFT, buy an NFT, and then sell it to someone else. Now, obviously, it's got all these extra things coming in, but initially, that's all it did. We can even take Stripe, for example. All Stripe did initially was provide developers with an experience that they could just import this little script or some lines of code that would accept cards and make a secure payment. Now Stripe does things from dispute management to recurring revenue and so on and so forth, and all these other things as well. So when you start off, make sure that the features that you build and the things that you do to attract customers are not what your competitors are doing now after existing for almost 3 to 4 years. Instead, you should be focusing on what they did back then when they also had no brand, very little money, and they were scrappy as well. You should be doing what was done in the past and then use that to what you can do in the future, which is the present right now, with the learnings that they might have figured out. So just keep that in mind, because if you go ahead and spend and run a marketing campaign targeting your competitors who've been around for 4 years and then wonder Why am I not getting the same results? Well, there's branding, there's market spend, there's audience impressions, there's also just familiarity of that particular product, right? So you will not get the same response rate simply because there's 4 years worth of work that was done. So you need to do something different, and you need to do what they did in concept, so that you can go ahead and attract the same amount of success that they did down the road. Now, the common thesis is that if someone's paying you, fantastic, they're the best customer, keep them around, do whatever they tell you to do. And that, I will say, is pretty wrong. You need to find the ideal customer. That means the customer who's facing a problem so deep that your solution does such a good job for, they're willing to completely embed your product into their lifestyle. And we'll go into that very soon. But what I mean by this is you want to find people whose lifetime value, that means throughout the entirety of them existing in your product, how long will they stay, and how much money will they actually pay you. You want to maximize that. So you'll have maybe two personas, both willing to pay you money. Don't get me wrong, both of them will pay you money, and both are not technically wrong customers. But customer A is just going to stay with you for maybe a month or two because they just need you for a short-term project, and then they're going to go. Customer B is going to stay with you for over 2 years because you're fundamental to the existence of their business or the existence of the problem that they're facing. Now, in a situation, even if customer B pays lower on a monthly subscription and customer A pays higher on a monthly subscription, you need to focus on customer B because their lifetime value stretches more. And in a subscription business model, you should not be looking at the first time purchase cost as your total acquisition cost, your lifetime value, right? Because when you're selling an e-commerce product and it's a one-time purchase per se, then that's it. You spend $10 and you hit $50 in return, and the product cost is maybe another $10, so you made $30 profit. So that's it. So you've got $30 of margin to play around with. With a SaaS product, the lifetime value, let's say, is $500, right? Then the game changes where you can basically afford to spend more to attract a certain type of customer, and therefore increase your overall budget, therefore increase how much people and how many people you can reach out to, grow your market audience, and so on and so forth. So while it looks like customer A, going to a previous example, in their first month, they maybe paid you $100, but customer B paid you only $30. But customer A leaves after 1 month, but customer B stays for you for 2 years. The math just is completely different. There's $100 over here, and 12 into 30 is going to be $360, almost 3 times the amount of capital, right? So you need to keep that in mind when you're building, that you do not build for the person who pays you. Just because they pay you, that doesn't mean they're the ideal persona. You want to build for customers that are going to stay with you for a long time, advocate your product, grow your product with you, support you with features and so on and so feature requests and so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. The fourth thing I did not do, and what you should not do, is fall for validation vanity. All right, I'm sure you've gone on Instagram, social media, and you've seen this fantastic post that someone said, all I did was put up a landing page and I got 200,000 email addresses, or I did this gamified new tactic and that got me 150,000 email addresses. I ran a Facebook campaign that got me 90,000 email, and it can feel very intimidating when you see other people hit such massive numbers and you think, why not? I'll tell you one thing for sure. If you go on Product Hunt, and it's a popular site for those who are not aware of SaaS solutions, and you look at the last 3 to 4 years, look at the number of number one products that came every single day and every single month, and actually click onto some of the sites and see if they even exist. I can assure you there's actually a shocking number of startups that were number one and gained all this traffic and all this value that just couldn't even figure out how to make money, and they died, right? And instead you'll see all these number 3, number 4, sometimes number 7 startups that are absolutely crushing it, making 150 to 200,000 monthly recurring revenue each month, right? So focus not on vanity, right? And instead focus on actual stickiness and actual high value customers. People who are willing to pay you not once, but continuously, and continuously are willing to stay with you, provide you feedback, support your growth, and you support their growth. So don't chase vanity. Don't chase the large numbers. Instead, chase high converting numbers, right? I'd rather have a blog that has 100 visits and all 100 of them convert to paying customers than a blog that has 100,000 visits and has only 5 people convert. Because in the end, remember, we are here to grow a business, and vanity does not work too well. Even when you're trying to sell the business, right? Even when you're trying to sell the business, impressions only work well, perhaps when you're trying to go ahead and run like an ad affiliate process. But if you're trying to focus on conversions, actual value of customers, right? When you are transferring offering value to another customer, and in return, they're giving you money. You need to focus on a conversion-driven audience, not a vanity-driven audience. And that's what I did this time around, is I did not focus on a vanity-driven audience. The most powerful, and definitely not the least, and I lied about number 1. Number 5 is the most important. The one thing I did not do this time was building before marketing. It is the most common pitfall founders, builders, engineers, product people fall into, because it is the easiest thing for us to do, is to just go ahead and build, and then worry about what the market will think later, because that's not a now problem, that's a later problem. And also, we just naturally hate rejection, and in general, people have this obsession with ideas and how engrossed they are with the concept that it is my idea, so I can't be faulted or wrong. In fact, that's the worst way to look at it. And I can attribute the fact that fundamentally, previous businesses that may not have worked, the one that did extremely well, it got sold, and this one that's growing well, is purely because we focused on growth before we focused on building. And even till this date, when we try to build a new feature, the first thing we do is we ask ourselves, is this going to bring us revenue? How quick is it going to bring us revenue? And then what type of revenue is it going to bring in? Short-term revenue or long-term revenue? For us right now, revenue is important. And when I say revenue, that's the core, the bloodline of the business. How long I mean by the revenue is how long is this feature going to last in terms of driving growth for our business? Is it just a short-term gimmicky sort of feature? Or is it something that will just naturally add value to our product and in the long term stretch the overall value of this product and value of the customer that we are going to acquire? So you need to focus on that, right? You need to focus on how we are going to go ahead and market a product to ensure that it is a revenue driving product. And then only if you see demand, you only see conversions, you only see growth in terms of people wanting this product, then you go ahead and build it. How? Well, there's multiple ways. If you don't have customers, fine, that's the case for a lot of people, then you can just run Google ads, Facebook ads, post on a few Facebook groups, direct message a few people, and just tell them this is what you're building. It's not that hard. Sometimes we overcomplicate these things. We think about running this ridiculous ad campaign strategy because some dropshipper told you to do so. No, just a simple ad campaign, Google ad campaign, because remember, these validation engines that you're using are actually going to be fundamental to the growth, because by validating, you're doing two things. One, you're trying to see if this is the feature people want, and second, you're seeing if this is a channel through which you can find people that want this feature that you're selling them, right? So that's the important thing you need to keep in mind. The validation is not just about feature validation, but it's actually about growth validation and channel metric validation. Is this the right place for me to actually acquire these customers? So keep that in mind when you're doing that as well. And now if you do have existing customers, while you're doing that, the second thing you can do is simply just say, hey, you're on the base plan. I'm about to launch this new feature that is going to be available only in the popular and pro plans. Do you think it's valuable enough for you to upgrade? Simple question. They're already paying you money, right? So the barrier to entrance is already done. There's no resistance layer. You have their credit card. So that's the biggest barrier we usually see in a conversion cycle. And if you have the credit card and they're still not willing to jump up a bracket to get access to this feature that you're trying to build, that's your validation. They just don't care. And if this is your existing customer base, you know that this is a persona. Your persona is telling you, yeah, I'm not going to upgrade for this, but hey, maybe if the price is lower, try understand the resistances at this point. If it's not just the fact that it's a crappy concept of a feature, but rather maybe it's a pricing barrier, or if it's a validation in terms of utility or integrations or whatever it is, try understand the problem there and don't just disqualify it. There you go. These are the 5 things I did not do this time around to grow my business to 10,000 users and right now more within a few months. These are the things that I guarantee you should not do as well. Now, if you want to stick around to find out what other things I did to acquire these customers, that's coming up in the next video. And obviously, if you did like this, I'd love for you to go ahead and click on the like and subscribe button. Share this with your friends, people who are building their businesses. It might just help them grow and it might just help you as well. Thank you so much. Have a good day and I'll speak to you soon.